Welcome to An Alternate Hugh. I'm Hugh Anderson, and this is some of what caught my attention this week. In the years leading up to the not-so-great recession, soaring housing prices were paid for with what were generously called no-doc loans. That lovely moniker was changed to liar loans when the music stopped and the banking industry learned its lesson. Or did it? J.P. Morgan and other credit card issuers recently announced they will be issuing credit cards to people with no credit. That should end well. On Tuesday, May 11th, the Wall Street Journal reported on the very same page two stories of a similar theme. The first discussed the $350 billion being distributed to state and local governments for pandemic-related costs. Quote, "These governments have endured unprecedented strains, forcing many to make untenable choices," unquote. And that may be true for many states. Directly below that article was one describing California's $75.7 billion budget surplus. Rumor has it Governor Newsom will not be declining any federal largesse. The next time you're waiting and waiting and waiting for your so-called fast food to arrive, have pity on the establishment that is probably running on a skeleton crew. Regrettably, our friends in Washington, D.C. don't think the generous benefits being doled out are impeding anyone from running back to work. But recently, 11 governors have stopped federal benefits so they can get their economies moving again. The question now will be, at what level will wages settle? Chipotle announced a $17 an hour wage, as did McDonald's at their corporate-owned stores only. Now we'll see which side of the minimum wage debate the true market economy falls on, so stay tuned. So are we angry at Jeff, or good on you, mate? That's the question. At 417 feet, that's the approximate length of Jeff Bezos' new dinghy, which is longer than a Boeing 747 jumbo jet, which is 250 feet long. Now, for those of you who don't know Jeff Bezos, he started Amazon, your other best friend. The yacht comes with a second support yacht to assist with the main yacht because everyone knows that good things come in pairs. Bezos' wealth increased by 60% during the pandemic to $200 billion, so the $500 million price tag is the average Joe's equivalent of a nice kayak. This kayak comes with its own pool, helicopter pad, 24 butlers, and can sail anywhere it wants to with you and all of your friends and family if you're friends with Jeff. Overall, U.S. billionaires gained $1.1 trillion in net worth during the pandemic, or put another way, they became 40% richer. So are we angry that Jeff has been one of the most successful business people in the history of the world, or are we thrilled that an individual is able to create such enormous wealth by filling a need, and therein lies opportunities for everybody else? The investing world was agog at the April inflation figures, but also beneath the headlines, which are indeed alarming, there are numerous explanations. The most pronounced price increases were in the parts of the economy which have moved from little or no capacity, essentially being closed, to somewhat greater capacity. So think stadiums. They're now filling up with sports fans who are pretty much willing to pay just about any price for a ticket. Sporting events prices soared a record 10.1% in a month. Airlines have limited their capacity and the seats are now filled, and for a time, vacation-starved consumers are willing to pay up to fly anywhere. Airline fares spiked 10.2% and hotel rates surged 8.8%. And try renting a car. And then there are areas where the shortage of semiconductors showed up in the motor vehicle industry and computers as well. Used car prices jumped 10%, partly due to a shortage of new vehicles due to the chip shortage, and partly the fact that few people are ready to take public transit just yet. But, and you know there's always a but, the price increases were highly concentrated in just 7% of the economy. 93% of the economy came in at just 0.3% price increase, and huge segments of the CPI came in at 0.2% or less, including rents, medical care, and education. These areas comprise a combined 55% of the core CPI. And now for that tax update you've been waiting for. In a recent op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, it discussed the tax proposals coming from the White House. The Treasury Department has compiled an extraordinary new database using IRS data on taxes actually collected since 1962. The top tax rate of 91% in 1962 applied to families with joint incomes in today's dollars of $3.38 million. After deductions and credits, only 447 tax filers out of 71 million paid any taxes at the top rate. The top 1% of income earners paid only 16.1% of their income, and the top 10% paid 14.4%, while the bottom 50% paid 7%. President Kennedy recognized while high tax rates collected little revenue, they stifled growth as resources were squandered in the avoidance of taxes rather than the production of goods. When the top tax rate was reduced to 70%, individual tax collections continued to grow. Remarkably, while the top marginal rate fell from 91% in 62 to 28% in 1998, the percentage of income actually paid in income and payroll taxes rose. As the top tax rate fell by 2/3, the percentage of income paid in federal income payroll taxes by the top 1% and 10% of earners rose by 1/3. Notice the very bottom line is very horizontal. That's the lowest or the bottom 50% of income earners, and their tax rates rarely go up. Not complaining, just saying that soaking the rich, as they say, may not be a good idea. It's also worth pointing out the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has found that high-income Americans already bear a higher relative share of the income tax burden than the rich do in other developed nations. The top 10% of American households earn about 33.5% of all income earned, but pay 45% of all income taxes, including Social Security and Medicare taxes. That progressivity ratio, try saying that 3 times fast, progressivity ratio in the U.S. is far higher than Germany, France, and Sweden. You probably won't hear that on the evening news. While the OECD study debates the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Acts, the Congressional Budget Office found that the acts made the U.S. tax code even more progressive. Quote, before Congress bets the future of America on the federal government's ability to soak the rich without crippling the economy, lawmakers need to recognize that the marginal rates being proposed have never been collected from any significant number of taxpayers except under the direst of circumstances, such as a war for survival. Voters might also note that in the rest of the developed world, where government taxes takes a larger share of GDP in taxes, high earners pay about the same share of GDP in income taxes that high-income Americans pay today. But everybody else pays a lot more. May I repeat that? But everybody else pays a lot more. So essentially, we can try to tax the rich, but there's not enough of them. There's a lot of us. So the proof is in the 1040, as they say. And finally, lifeguarding. It's a critical mission. Life-saving work is very, very important, but it's best done in Los Angeles. 82 county lifeguards make over $200,000, including benefits, and 7 are in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. And overtime ain't bad either. 31 made between $50,000 and $131,000 in overtime pay. And after 30 years, if you can stay fit, they can retire at 55 on 79% of their pay. David Hasselhoff, or Hoff to his friends, eat your heart out. So that's it for this week. I really appreciate you joining in and watching my video. I appreciate all the feedback people are giving me. Positive and negative. I always appreciate the input. I wish you nothing but health, happiness, and prosperity. Until next time.